You're listening to the Millennial's Choice Show, Canada's most trusted podcast on all things real estate, finance, and entrepreneurship. Here's your host, Matthew Ablacan.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Millennial's Choice Show. If you're listening to this for the first time, my name is Matthew Ablacan. I'm the owner here, and we got a very distinguished guest. It's funny how the world works, because sometimes people around me say, why do you do this event? Why do you do this speaking engagement? Why do you go here? Why do you go there? And a lot of times you're not seeing the fruit of the labor. But the first time we went to the Vaughan Business Expo, we met the mayor, and then that opened the door, the mayor at the time. And now fast forward 5 years later, they never did that event because of COVID. They ran it up again. I was one of the speakers, and I met our distinguished guest today, Councillor Mario Racco. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matthew. It's wonderful to be here. Let me make clear that if you really want to be connected with the community, if you want to be active, you have to attend events such as the Vaughan Chamber of Commerce. That's where you meet the real people with different background, depending where you go. It's a wonderful way of feeling that you're part of a community. Also, it's a good way of getting new business.
Yes.
It's a good way of exchanging your opinion with so many other people that may have different opinions than you have. And so that you and I or anybody else involved into those discussions can become a better person, because only when we know other people's opinions, we tend to be able to adjust our own and be better.
Yes.
So wonderful way.
So, sometimes my generation, Counselor, is instant results.
Yes.
We want the house, we want the car, we want the nice watch, we want the nice wife, we want all these things right away. But the problem is, some people don't want to work for it. So I'll give you an example, and he's not here today. He was supposed to be here, but he's really sick. My brother, I think you met him that day. We took a picture together, and he's just really ill today, but he sends his regards. He was telling me, why should we go at 7 a.m. to set up for 8 a.m.? No one's going to be there. I said, early bird gets the worm. When we went to that event and he saw how busy it was at 8 a.m., he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, can't believe it's this busy. I said, yeah, Danny, people are excited. People are early. They want to get started. It's their business. They're excited. So sometimes it's just about really understanding, like, the opportunity is there. You just have to go through that door. And maybe you got to do things you don't want to do. You don't want to wake up early. You don't want to set up. You don't want to be there. But it's opened my doors. Now you're here.
Unless you plan, you'll never get the best of you. Unless you went there an hour before so that you can do whatever it's needed in 10 minutes and then have another 50 minutes to think and look around and see who's there, because there will be other people there too. You're missing a golden opportunity to be ready, quite frankly, when the time comes. So yeah, you got to put that a little extra planning before you actually do the work. And those of us who do the planning, in my opinion, will do much better in the long run. Remember, at the end of the day, it's not how many hours you put on a job. It's how well you organize yourself and you're able to achieve your objectives. And so, yeah, that hour planning is very, very important, and I'm happy to hear that your brother did learn from it, because I think all of us will. The question is when. The sooner the better, so that we can be able to have a more productive life once we learn. Yeah, that's normal.
Well, now we're connected.
Yes.
So now you don't know what's going to happen, right? We have an episode now. We have, who knows where it's going to go in the future, but we're connected. This is the first step. Actually, the first step was meeting you at that event.
The second time we meet, first time we have an opportunity to exchange some views. Hopefully, we'll get into some exciting stuff, not only from the city of Vaughan, but also from life. The city of Vaughan is made up of 350,000 people. We all have our own way of doing things. We all have our own objectives. And so when we are able to communicate and learn, we are doing all of us a favor, not just to you and I, but those people who are listening, I'm sure one or two of them will learn something from us. At least we will have them think about it. What is that they said that makes sense to us? What is that they said that we are not doing or that we are doing? Right. And so we all learn. That's why communication is so important.
I agree. So start from the beginning. Who is Mario Racco?
That's a good question. Well, let me give you the basic. I was born in Italy. I came here when I was 16, just couple of months short of 17 years old, a young man basically came here, believe it or not, to see a cottage. I come from a place on the sea, on the Ionian Sea. I don't need to see a cottage. We are on the water. You know, I can walk to the water probably 1,000 feet away, 2,000 feet away from my house is where the sea is. But I saw a picture. You know, the famous line, "A picture's worth a million words."
Yeah.
I saw a picture of from a cousin of mine, from another cousin who had a beautiful cottage on the water, and I saw this huge tree. Now, where I come from, we don't have trees on the water. You know, it's salty water. And so to me it was something so unique. So, I mean, I stared at that picture. I was a baby at the time, less than 10 years old. And so I always thought of coming to Canada. In those days, we used to say America.
Yes.
Then Trudeau was elected prime minister, and we became aware that there is a Canada. At least where I come from.
This is Pierre Elliott
Trudeau.
Trudeau?
Back in '68, he became prime minister, and that's the first time. If anybody asks me, when did you hear about Canada? That was the first time I remember the word Canada. Before that was America. Okay. To us, there was no difference between the United States or Canada. Don't forget where I come from. So many of us have come to America, Canada, United States, and many other parts of the world. Many people look for a better life because opportunity were not as good as we wanted to. Right. And so many generations, my grandparents, both of them, I remember before I even was perceived, were working in Canada, in Scrabble. Many people, who, if they're the old generation would know, it's a city about an hour and a half from Thunder Bay. See how far it was? Many Calabrians in those days used to go there to build the railway. Wow. When I came to Canada, I became aware that even the Chinese were building the railway. So, so there was a number of communities that were brought to Canada. So my grandparents came here, but they were married in Italy, and they went back home. You know, they would work, go home, have children, come back again. At the end of the day, my mother never left Italy or Siderno, Calabria, but my father did. My father went to Australia, but my mother's family, 2 sisters and a brother, were living in Canada. So when we grew up and I saw that picture, I came to Canada with only the intent to stay 6 months and go back. I had a ticket good for a year, and I remember telling my uncle, I'm leaving within 6 months. I just want to meet the family, get a little more familiar with the English language. You see, I studied hotel services in Italy, and so when I graduated, I went to work in Riccione. It's one of the most beautiful places, not just in Italy, but in the world in those days. A touristic area, north of Italy, very close to the city of Bologna. So I got all excited. Beautiful life, beautiful things. And then from there, I went home for 4 or 5 days, and I went back to Rome because I had to pay a visit to the Canadian embassy because I had already applied. And my older brother, who was living in Canada, in Toronto at the time, had come in holiday. He said, if you want to work in Rome, we can look on the newspaper. Maybe we can find a job. I said, surely. And within hours, I went for an appointment. My brother made a few calls. I didn't even know what to do in those days. And so we went, had this interview. They hired me on the spot. And there's a lady who was married to a Calabrian. She was from Tuscany, but married from somebody from Reggio, Calabria. Said, if you leave your brother with me, I'll take care of him. Find me a room in the hotel, in the same building of the restaurant. And I stayed there for a week. I stayed in Rome for about 4 months. I went home I still remember, on the 23rd of December, because, we celebrate Christmas, very, very powerful in Italy, holiday. And so I left at midnight, the train that leaves Rome station, and I arrived at home at 8 a.m. on the 24th. And so I stayed there until I came to Canada in February. So that's how it started. But when I came in Canada, I basically wanted to spend those 6 months learning the English language, but most important, seeing this cottage. By the way, I never saw that cottage.
Oh, no?
I am still looking for it. But I bought something on my own, not similar to that, but a good one, something decent, I should say. And I stayed in Canada, quite frankly, because I was happy. I mean, right away, I made friends within days. Life, as you can appreciate in Canada, is a little more open-minded than what I was living, in Calabria and Siderno. And so as a young man, I got very excited, stayed, got a job, went to school. I mean, the moment I became 17, a few months later, I went to school. But I was working always, was working 3 months full time. Then I went to school and I worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday sometime too. So 2-3 days a week. Because I had a diploma in hotel services, I could find a job in the best restaurants, quite frankly. Right. And so I found good job where I was making wonderful money. And so very happy, single, 16, 17 by that time, going to school, paying the bills, sending some money home, which was very traditional in my family in where I grew up. And, very excited. I met some wonderful ladies, young ladies that I dated. So I was lucky. I didn't get stuck with the wrong person, not just ladies, but even friends. Instead, what they all say is go with better people than you and pick up the tab than going with worse people than you and they pick up the tab. I was lucky in the sense that I made the right people, and so I didn't make any mistakes that I'm aware of, and so I was able to study. I mean, I had a grade 11 from Italy at the age of 16 because I went to hotel school, but I came back here. I had to start from grade 1 in English, and I finished it. Within 2 years, I finished my high school. Amazing. While working and full-time studying, working part-time, and then I went to Ryerson. Got my diploma in accounting and finance. Got a job whilst still at Ryerson with Dominion Security, which is one of the investment corporation. It's owned today by the Royal Bank of Canada, so it's a very big investment house. But I was an auditor. I wasn't selling this. I was basically keeping a list of high-risk investors, people that put money, but they were also borrowing. And right. So to make sure that their balance, their market value was not lower than what they owned the bank, basically. So that was my job, but I didn't stay much because it was a wonderful opportunity, but wasn't exciting. And so I went and was running with the owner a brand new company from Canada, Switzerland, and Italy. That was in the importing, exporting business, high-end furniture. And so I did a number of things, but all that though kept me in the political arena because I was involved in politics in the first year I came to Canada.
What made you want to do politics? Because someone who's coming from that background, clearly you're very ambitious, and you didn't come with your parents either. You came by yourself.
Yes.
It's very difficult to even fathom that. Like even for myself to pick up my family now and go somewhere, it's a scary thing to do. Go somewhere new, learn the language, the custom. So you got into, like, you were very entrepreneurial, you could tell. So what made you then want to get into politics? Was it from Italy? Was it something you saw here? Like, what was it?
There is a couple of words I will use. One is luck. Okay. The other one is opportunity. It is being at the right place, basically. I was studying full-time and working part-time. Well, I happened to, at that restaurant where a master restaurant, many Italo-Canadians will know, on Wilson, very high-end Italian restaurants. When I went there, not only the income was incredibly high because of the tips, but there was a gentleman by the name of Bob Kaplan who he had been elected in 68, lost in 72, and then he was trying to find a new riding where he could win. He went to school with Pierre Trudeau in Montreal in law school. So there was a relationship with the prime minister. And so he wanted badly to get in. And so his in-law were able to connect him with a number of Italo-Canadians who were, active business people. And so me working there, meeting him, that's how it all started, basically. He did, speak to me and ask me if I could help, and I met a number of other people, and that's how I started my political activity in Canada. But the other thing is that even when I went to Ryerson, we had the Italian club at Ryerson, And so we were a little politically active. There's the main student council, but there's also the other community groups. And so we used to get involved. We got involved in one election, but then we used to have parties all the time, dinner dance. And well, it wasn't dinner dance. It was more to do with dancing and some
like a gala.
Student stuff, basically. But we are also connected with York University and U of T. So the three local university, Ryerson at the time was a polytechnical. We used to socialize, and so that you get involved at that level, and there's always a number of people who have political ambitions, political drive, and I think all that helped. But then, when I graduated, one of my cousins ran for the provincial Liberals, didn't do well, but the fact that he ran got me involved. Remember, I used to work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
For my first 5 years, I was a very happy guy because I was, when I was working at the restaurant, for me it was like going to a club because I knew the people, most of them. For me, it was not working, was having fun and making lots of money at the same time. And at school, of course, yes, you had to study, but there was lots of social activity. And so wasn't that hard, but I was 7 days a week busy, basically. And so all of a sudden, I'm working 9 to 5, 5 days a week. It was boring. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I had a girlfriend, I had a place, I had a car, like any other young man wants at that age. But I just felt that there was too much time available that I didn't know what to do. Right. And so politics, that election of June 1977 was incredible because I got in right away, and I was, after working hours, I used to spend time at the, canvassing, doing work for the candidate, and that gave me another kick into the political arena. From that day on, I never stopped. In fact, I became the face of the riding after the election when there was a convention. I used to attend every convention that was available in those days. In those days, the Liberals federally, we were doing very well. We were doing poorly provincially, as you know. And so we were quite active. And so I never stopped since that time, getting involved, first helping people, but then running on my own.
Do you recall Michael Ignatieff?
Of course, yeah.
Right? So
not in a very positive way. I'll admit it. I think the gentleman had lots of potential and brain, but was one of the biggest disappointment that I had to experience. Nothing against the gentleman, quite frankly. I don't think that whoever brought him to the Liberal Party into Canada made one of the biggest mistakes in the political arena, in my opinion. But I can assure you there's many people who did love the gentleman. I met him, I met his wife, I canvassed with him, I canvassed for him. I attended a number of meetings with him in Thornhill, where he did come. So I have some extra knowledge than normal. But when I compare him to Pierre Trudeau, it's like there's quite a difference.
So the reason I brought him up was because you're talking about these conventions. Yeah. So I was invited years ago when he was running for the Liberal convention. It was there was one in Vaughan, many in Vaughan, but I attended one, and I've never seen so much red. Like, it was packed.
The Liberal Party in the old days. It just like the Conservative are doing today. What you see, the Conservative at the federal level in particular, it was just what we used to do at the federal level for the Liberals in the old days. We knew that we had to have a big event in Toronto. And when I say Toronto, I mean the GTA, quite frankly. Yeah. But Toronto, in those days, was the place until we switched to Vaughan, quite frankly, through Greg Sobara. We used at the provincial level, we used to have a major event in Vaughan, just like we used to have one in North York at the federal level. And the strategy was very simple. We got to get the leader to be seen that there's thousands or hundreds of people want to touch him, want a picture with him. And so that was a strategy. Somebody was in charge and a bunch of us were helping out. And we always got that. Was a natural thing to do. And we succeeded. And we sent a very positive message. And that's why we did so well for so many elections, quite frankly.
So I want to unpack that a little bit more. There's a few things that you said in there. So why do you think that the Conservative Party today is doing what the Liberal Party was doing before? And why isn't the Liberal Party just doing more of what worked for them?
There is different reaction. I don't want to take sides. I mean, my party color is my party color. I believe that if you choose a wife, you chose a wife. You don't look around. If you choose a party, you have chosen a party. You don't look around. But that doesn't mean that you don't criticize or that you don't disagree.
Right.
I remember one of the brightest brain in Canada, not just for the Liberal Party, but in Canada. And his name was Mitchell Sharp. Mitchell Sharp was a contender for the Liberal Party of Canada. Didn't succeed because Pierre Trudeau succeeded, but he was a major cabinet minister for a mini portfolio. And when he decided not to run, I think it was in 79, we had a meeting in high school in the Lawrence Barrows area. And I remember him coming there and somebody asked him the question. I said, Mr. Sharp, we are not happy. That was when we didn't do well. You remember when Pierre Trudeau lost for 6 months. Joe Clark won, and then 6 months later we took over again. But Mitchell Sharp's answer to the question was, how the question generally was, how can I feel that I'm a liberal when I disagree with A, B, and C? The gentleman was a gentleman, listed the item, and his answer was very simple. A liberal is somebody who agrees with 50% plus one of the liberal philosophy. And that would apply to the conservative in his mind or any other party. So he said, you don't have to be 100% convinced. You only have to be convinced 50% plus one, then you are a liberal. This is one of the greatest brains, in my humble opinion, in politics that we had in Canada. By the way, he was the gentleman who trained Jean Chrétien. So that tells you the brain power that gentleman had. So you are associated with a party the moment that you agree with 50% plus one, because in politics, you can't all agree. Because if we all agree, as one mayor told me many, many years ago, then why are we electing 7 people, Mario?
We have a dictatorship at that point, right?
But not only that, but if we all agree, and there is, let's say, in Bonn today there's 10, in those days there was 7. If 7 people say the same thing, why are we electing 7 or 10? Let's elect 1.
Exactly.
We elect so many people because we want to hear from different views, from different people. That makes sense, though. We don't need radicals. Even if sometimes you need a radical voice, quite frankly, at the end of the day, even a radical voice is surrounded by good people, reasonable people, I shouldn't say good, people that are representative of the general population. It should be able to somehow convince that radical idea that there is a better way to do it. But we also need radical, because unless we dream big, we will never achieve our best. So it is important. Everybody, quite frankly, in society is worth something. But if we manage it properly, we will get a better results. And that's the biggest problem, trying to answer your question. The way things are today, we don't seem to have the people associated with the Liberal Party so much attracted to the leadership of the party as it is with Pierre for the PC party. Somehow they have been able to appeal to so many people that are prepared to go to a meeting and spend hours and days sometimes cheering him out.
Supporting him
for whatever purpose. And remember, there's people, you and I have different objectives. At the end of the day, we may agree with most of them, but there is some differences. So he's able to appeal to so many people, and he's very hot right now, if I can use that language, in politics. There will be a day, remember, Justin Trudeau in 2013, when he was elected, my God, he was, very hot, very in demand. But 9 years at the top of the country as a prime minister, unfortunately made people change their opinion. Now, is that his fault? Surely. The leader always takes all the credit, most of the credit, and most of the blame.
Yes.
But you and I know that it's impossible. It is who you surround yourself with that makes a difference. Again, In council, there's 10 of us. If we only listen to one, the other 9 are just write-offs, as I call it. They're not worth much. Yeah, they can go to events and smile and say that they did this and that, but at the end of the day, when they go to sleep at night, they say, really, what did I do today? What did I achieve? How did I make my life better? How did I make the people representing Vaughan or whatever you are elected to, how did I make their lives better? Did I solve the transportation problem? Did I solve this community anger against each other that we have? Did I improve the Middle East situation? What did I do to make my community, Vaughan, Ontario, Canada, the world, a better place? And if there is no answer to it, you didn't do much. Yeah, you can smile, but when you get up in the morning, you shouldn't be feeling very proud of yourself. Because unless you made life better for your family, for your community, the people you represent to, what is the purpose of living? What is the purpose of going anywhere? If I didn't think I was going to do something better today here, what did I come here for?
Exactly.
There has to be a purpose. And sometimes we don't achieve the purpose. That's fine. But at least we try. At least we believe on. We can't have thousands of people screaming that we have made an approval in Vaughan that they don't agree. And we should feel good about it. No. If people are not happy, we got to find a solution. Why? Now, they may be wrong sometime. Most of the time, they're right, quite frankly. Remember, the client is always right. Doesn't matter. Maybe they're not perfect, but they're right. And so we have to find a solution to either do what they believe is right or convince them that they may don't have all the information and give them the facts, and probably some of them will see what we see, and at the end of the day, we have more people satisfied, quite frankly. That should be the job of any elected official. And again, anybody who thinks that they can get away by doing something against the people, they're wrong, because in today's society, social media, this show, we are going to be very polite here today, but normally, when you have a show like this, there will be a number of accusations or a number of statements made that the message goes out there, and many people will hear, and react. And that's real democracy, in my opinion. But
I agree with 100% with what you're saying, because you're one of the rare people that can criticize their own party. You're one of the rare people that, not specifically just because it's your own party, but because you see something that you don't agree with, you see something that's not right, and you can criticize it. And that's, as you said, that's a democracy where we can have those conversations. Can I let you know what I don't like? I don't like when I see on both sides, or whoever it is, I don't like the attacks.
Yeah.
I don't like the attacks. If there's a policy that doesn't work, if there's something that's not being done that's transparent or honest or in the service of others, call it out, but refrain from the personal attacks, the divisiveness that we see a lot more of in our partners down south. Yeah. We see it in American politics. And, I think maybe certain officials down there that were elected, Trump, he brought this whole new way of doing it, but I don't like the divisiveness, because then you can't really, it creates this hatred, right? You can't really have a conversation anymore because you're so mad at the other guy. Yeah.
Remember, one of the first things that any elected official at any level in any country is to unite the people that he or she represents. So the moment that they are fighting each other, they are against the basic principle of democracy, of their being elected to public office. So they're going against the basic. So that's wrong. But having said all that, there will be a moment or two where people have to be very aggressively criticizing an issue because they disagree with it. Right. So you got to make a point, but then accept, debate it. Yes, make your statement, but then debate it. Let's find common ground. Why do we disagree, and how we can reduce? It's like when you go in court. You go in court. Now, there's two ways. You go in court and you spend a fortune and nobody wins at the end of the day. Or you go to court, but then you have what we call a remedial opportunity, where you reduce your arguments, your issue, you settle, basically, in some of the issue that were on the table. And so that when you end up in court, you will minimize the time in court, and the cost. It's a benefit to everyone at the end of the day. That's what exactly should happen in politics. Yes, make your case politely. Yes, you gotta be a little aggressive. You can do that. You gotta be professional, but you can also be aggressive at the same time. There's nothing unprofessional if you are aggressive. What's unprofessional is when you lie, when you mislead intentionally. If you happen not to know something and you made a statement and you were wrong, that's to some degree acceptable because you didn't know. And then you have the obligation to adjust it. Then you're okay, in my opinion anyway. But otherwise, you're not doing your job. And I tell you, we criticize the South, and there is lots of truth, especially with Trump right now. But don't forget one thing. One of the reasons that Trump is doing so well, in my opinion, is because everybody's after him. In politics, there is an old line that says, just mention my name. I don't care what you're saying. Just spell my name properly. That's a line. It may not be right, but that's a line. Trump is so everybody knows him.
The most famous guy will get elected. Yeah.
Remember, when people attack you, you have a golden opportunity to show who you are. Yeah. Because people are talking about you. So this gentleman or this individual is married, has children, has business. It's not that many people can really, you can criticize in a number of ways, but he has proven that what most people like you and I want, he seems to have it already. So you can criticize all you want. At the end of the day, there is some value there. Now, again, my philosophy is more closer to the Democrats than the Republican, philosophically speaking. But I'm one of those people that I always give credit to those that deserve. I mean, the Prime Minister, the leader of the PC party, came to Bonn. I was invited. Politely, I attended. I wasn't there to support him. I was there to hear and to show respect, quite frankly, to someone who may become Prime Minister, even if he doesn't. Still, it's the leader of a party who has been a leading party in Canada. Overall, the Liberals have been more in power than the PC, but the PC have been in power for many years too, not just at the national level, but also at the provincial level. And so, again, in politics, especially when you're at the municipal level, you should be respectful to every party. Yeah. Because you're going to have to work with everyone at the end of the day. It doesn't mean that you got to change your own party. You can keep your own on your own time. But when you're in public office like me here, quite frankly, I should be fair to all. It's up to the people to choose who they want to vote for. I should be able to criticize any party policy that I see is not in the best interest of my constituents, politely always. But at the end of the day, we should be neutral.
I agree. And what I want to talk about American politics just quickly because there's an election coming up. But before we do that, so one last thing on that point, when there are people in the leadership position that pass certain laws or regulation or things that are not good for your constituents, in the olden days, like when we see something happen that maybe is a little bit scandalous, like, we can name people, but we don't have to, but typically they step down. Something changes, they step down. You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about.
That was honorable. There used to be the word, that was an honorable thing to do.
It was honorable.
Forget about honorable. There's no honorability lately, unfortunately. I think that's where you're going with your question.
Where I'm going with it is, first of all, yes, why is there so much stuff that's coming out that whichever level of government that people are saying this isn't right, but at the same time, we're all saying that, but nothing is being done about it. What's it going to take to really bring about that change? Simple.
The people will elect a new government, provincially, federally, municipally, send a strong message. We are not happy. We told you we were not happy. You didn't make no change, so you're out. That would be the best way. Remember, a politician needs attention all the time. That's how we get elected. We get elected because people vote for us. You can spend $1 or $1 million. Yes, spending money sometimes helps getting extra vote, but at the end of the day, it's the voter that makes that decision. If the voter isn't happy, he or she shouldn't just say they're not happy. They should go and vote in favor or against. I mean, or whom they think will do what is in their best interest. But if voters are not happy, let's say about me, and they keep on voting for me, what do you expect from me?
Exactly. It's insanity. It's more of the same.
It's the people that has to send the message. Imagine if, let's say that in Vaughan, we make a decision that's terrible, that the residents are screaming against it, and we choose not to, or the majority choose not, because the majority wins at the end of the day. But if the majority or all choose not to make that change that the people want and it's reasonable, then the only way to send the message is the people voting against them. If they don't, either because they vote for the same people or because they just don't go out to vote, they have not sent a message. And if you don't send a message, how do you expect politician to change? It's just like your child. If your child does something terrible at home and you give him a cookie or you give him a present instead of penalizing the kid, what do you think your kid will do next time? Will do the same mistake or even bigger. Or give you an interesting point that many people would love to talk about. If somebody in the community commits a crime and that person goes to court and doesn't get charged properly, what do you think this individual will do next time? I got away with the crime I committed. I even went to court and I still won. What's going to be next time? He will do the same or she will do the same. Society has to be responsible. We have to see what's best in the long run. We can't put kids in jail where they become worse. I understand that part. But at the same time, if we don't penalize those that made a mistake intentionally, in particular, and I would even go a little further, but let's stay on the intentional one. Quite frankly, I think that we are sending a terrible message to our society, which you and I will be affected. Our family will be affected. I always think about my wife, my daughter, my wife, my son, and everybody else, quite frankly. And when I think of them, I try to do what is best for them, which is what's best for me, which is what is best for the people I represent, because we are part of the community. If we would approach life that way, trust me, politics would be much easier. Society would be much better off. That anger that we see in Canada, in the States, and other parts of the world. And my God, we know what's happening in many other parts of the world, much, much, much worse than what's happening in Canada. All those things would be not either eliminated, but at least would be reduced to potentially what we consider to be acceptable. Because, in life, there's always a little shaking. There's always something that we don't accept. But democracy teaches us that we have to do what is best for the community, not what's best for me. And sometimes, when you're elected, let's say, as a local councillor, you can't just do what's best for your little corner. You represent, let's say, the city of Vaughan. Yes, you're elected if you're a ward councillor. In my case, I'm elected citywide. So I'm responsible politically, legally, as I call it, for everyone. If they vote or not, for me, it's irrelevant. I represent the city. But even the local councillor represents the city. And he or she should put the city hats. Yes, fight for your constituents because you represent them directly. But also keep in mind that the city is the corporation here. It's not Ward 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but it's the city of Vaughan. If we approach politics that way, my humble opinion, we will do a much better job. We have better working relationship. Our employees will be happier. Our employees don't have to get concerned what to say because they are expected to say the truth, nothing else but the truth. They don't have to withdraw some of their knowledge or some of their information because they're worried what may happen to them as employee. This is the worst thing that anybody can be. And when that happens, problem starts. And when problem starts, they will not be cleaned until council is cleaned. Think about that. Those people who are thinking that they can get away with it, they are making a terrible mistake because in the long run, the people will make a difference when they go to vote.
So you're now getting into the whole censorship thing and all that. Before we get into that, what do you say to the people that are listening to this and will say, what he's saying is right in theory, I agree. However, there is no such thing as democracy. There's no such thing as a fair and free election. And my vote doesn't actually count.
Wrong. You asked me 3 questions, all your conclusion. I know you're asking the question. They're all wrong. You can make a difference. And you must think that you can make a difference. Because if you don't, you will never achieve your best. In other words, if I get up in the morning and say, well, I'm a loser, I can't get a job, you'll never get a job. And you will be a loser. But if you get up and say, I am the best, I can do this job, I am the best candidate for this job, even if you don't know who all the other candidates are sometime, your probability of getting that job are much greater, and your probability of having a better, more satisfying life are much greater. In life, we have to be positive. We can't dream all the time, but we got to be very positive. And again, unless you are aggressive thinking, you will never get the best. You remember what I said when we started this debate? We have to have some radical in a group. Not that many, just 1 or 2 radical, to come up with wild idea. Because only when we get some wild idea, we go a little farther. Otherwise, we stay in our comfort zone. And our comfort zone is wonderful, but it's not the best. Yeah. Think when we were kids, and my days, and people were started going to the moon. I said, how could they go there? There's nothing up there. Think about that. But then as you grow, you see the news, you see a picture on TV, and you read on the newspaper, and you conclude that, yes, there is a space up there that we can park, that we can walk, that we can do. But at the beginning, how could you even think about that? How many people... I come from a place very conservatively, not Italy, but section within Italy. There was a time that girls were not expected to go to school. My sister went to university. Many of her girlfriends stopped at grade 3, grade 5, grade 8. That's not Italy. That's section where the social life is very conservative. There is a philosophy, without getting too specific. Now, you go back to those municipalities I'm talking of, everybody's a doctor. We needed to break the ice. We needed to get the message. We needed a dreamer that said, I am going to university. I'm going to high school. I'm going to university. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer, a scientist, or whatever. We needed that breaking of the ice. And when that happened, the next question was, well, if she did it, why can't I do it? That sounds like a radical thing at the time, but quite frankly, it's normal.
It reminds me of the 4-minute mile where doctors were telling people they can't do it, the runners, they can't do it. Shout out to Carson because he's a marathon runner. So he knows this.
He knows.
But then the first guy did it, so many others went on to do it. And it reminds me of that, what you're saying. Shifting to the economy a little bit.
Can I make a point on this one? It's really important. I come from a beautiful city, municipality. When I was born, there was 16,500. Now there's 18,000. It's known as Siderno. It's in Reggio Calabria. It's on the Ionio Sea. We have a marathon runner, Panetta, that won the European Championship many years ago. The moment he did that, incredible things did happen. Talking again about breaking the ice. Right. The Italian government built us one of the best soccer fields that you can have in such a small municipality with the track fields around it. It sent a message to the entire municipality of Siderno and vicinity that it's possible. Just what you just said, that yes, you can even go faster than that. We need leadership. We need somebody to break the ice, to send a message that it's possible, that we can be better, that we can be greater than what we are. When that happens, everybody benefits. You spoke earlier on the same point and about politics, that, in the States, in Canada, the best success stories of Italo-Canadian or new Americans, Canadian or USA, seems to have happened in the States, not in Canada. Did we ever have a prime minister in Canada that was born somewhere else? or the father was born. To my knowledge, no. Maybe there is a yes there, but I'm not aware of. And even if there is, since I'm not aware of, generally speaking, you can conclude that it's not well known. If I go to the States, give you another example. Same name, Panetas. His dad was born in Siderno, and he came to Canada, the States, and he ended up in the States. And this son was born. Well, this son was the equivalent of MPP, in Canada, from in the States, one of the states. But then when Bill Clinton became prime minister, hired him as chief of staff. Now think for a moment. The son of somebody born in Siderno ended up being the chief of staff of the president of the United States, the most powerful position in this world. It's not the president the most powerful. The president has the name. It's who ran him or her, in this case him, that really has the power. I mean, the prime minister is like the PR. All these decisions made by the cabinet and staff and thousands of, depends which position you're in, thousands of employees in the States case are managed by that chief of staff. And yet this chief of staff was of a father born in Italy, Siderno, doesn't matter where. Greece, there was also in the States another gentleman from Greece that ran to become president. Didn't make it, but did very well. In the States, somehow, they have been able to break the ice faster, bigger. We don't even think about that in Canada. Oh, no. We are, here, we can keep our culture and be Canadian. Yeah, but you know what? When you run for prime minister, I haven't seen that happening. Again, if I'm wrong, please let me know. I think we should be truthful to ourselves all the time. And it's nice to cheer Canada. I always do that. I have to do that. It's my job somehow, but it's also my motivation. But once in a while, we should look overall and say, is that really true? How well are our people like me, born in Siderno, Calabria, Italy, or anywhere else, who came to Canada? I did okay, but did somebody else in my same situation do better in the States? You will find out that the answer is yes, that they did better in the States, based on what I know. So yes, be proud, Canadian, promote Canada all the way, but don't forget that there is other reality out there that we should know and use them to make our lives better. And so I wanted to again stress how important it is to break the ice and have an open mind.
I love that. And you know what? In university, they taught us in history class, what does it mean to be Canadian, right? Mm-hmm. We're a melting pot, so many different cultures and ethnicities. And the joke was, maple syrup and hockey and snow. But the reality is it's the people, right? This is one of the biggest social experiments in the world, because there hasn't been a country where you can have all these cultures and all these races living together in peace.
Let me give you an example that you will understand what I was saying earlier. There was more than once I was canvassing in Bonn or Markham. I represented both Bonn and Markham at the same time at the provincial level. That somebody approached me and said, "Mr. Racco, why are you running here? You should be running Woodbridge." I said, "Why?" "Well, because you're Italian." That is the deficit. It's beautiful. I'm proud. I speak Italian fluently. I still have an accent. I graduated from Ryerson, from York, from Seneca in Canada, and yet I still have an accent because I speak Italian all the time. Very proud of it. I go in Italy. I even have a parcel of land in Italy. My parents left to me. Unfortunately, they're gone. But the fact is that we have created in Canada this perception that unfortunately it's used negatively. Not positive, sometimes positive. Listen, I go to a place and some people just hug me because I am Italo-Canadian. I mean, there is pride, especially today. 40 years ago was different. But today, being Italo-Canadian is a major asset. I admit, and I'm proud of it, and everybody should be proud of it, quite frankly. Not just Italian, because we get that respect, quite frankly, but others who show that they're open-minded. I appreciate that. But there is times and places that it's used against you or anybody, me in this case, to suggest that maybe that's not the place where I should be running. Really? But I live here. I'm part of the community. I have done so much for the community. Why would anybody question my background? If I do a good job, I do a good job. Doesn't matter which nationality or where you were born. And well, it seems that in the States, they talk against it, but somehow they are producing better leader than in Canada. But I would be happy to hear from anybody to give me evidence that maybe I'm wrong. I would love to hear so that I can update myself on that if necessary.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all about those ESG scores, right? And so there's been this kind of shift that is not working. It looks like we're shifting back, where a lot of corporations are getting rid of this requirement, but there's still some that are moving towards it, where they're not hiring the right person for the job based on their background, their merits, their abilities, like you said, rather different kind of social issues that are coming up, whether it's race or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, they're not solving the problem. Listen, we should promote the groups that are not doing well. I mean, I'm the first one to suggest that we should help those in need. And we should be fair and equal. That has never happened yet. That is not happening right now. But that should be our objective, quite frankly. Because remember one thing. Female means your wife, my wife. Do you want to discriminate against your own wife? I certainly don't. No. I can't think of any man who would. So there should be no difference between men and female.
Or your mother, for example, your grandmother, or
exactly. No, but the female is such a simple answer. Why would anybody want to discriminate against their own wife? I would do anything for my wife before I do anything for me. My daughter, would I do anything against my daughter? Are you joking? That's why I'm working.
And I have a daughter as well, so it's. So let's talk about that.
And let me make the final point. Do you know who your children are going to be married with?
No, not at this time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how can you discriminate against a nationality or a culture or a religion, a color, a belief? Because your own daughter, my daughter or my son may end up marrying somebody different. So we better start learning to adjust ourselves slowly or as fast as possible so that society will be better. Because again, we cannot control what our kids do, but we can control what we can do to make society fairer. I give you a good example. Never in a million years I thought I would marry somebody from Hong Kong, but my wife was born in Hong Kong. Some people sometimes tell me, oh, your wife, she looks just like a typical Calabrian wife. And I look at them, yeah, why? Did you expect differently? I mean, people, if they have an open mind, they adjust to their surroundings. And when we all do that, we all will be better.
I agree.
And so I hope that this message is heard and accepted and debated from everyone, because this is our lives. And we better do what's best for us.